Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our May 2025 meeting. And we've got a lot of things on our plate here for today, so we're excited about all the things that we can present to everybody in the club. So you've got the start file up, or you want me to show it, Colin?
It is, bud. I can run it.
Because I can show it from here. I can do a.
Yeah, we're not hiding that hard. Go ahead and do it. Yeah. We
All
may
right.
have, we may have some comments to add, but go ahead.
Okay. So let me start sharing then. Okay. So we are the Houston chapter of the Electric Vehicle Association, and we've had lots of stuff going on here during the month of April up until now in May. So can you see my screen okay?
Yes. Stop. Yeah. You can
Okay.
start the presentation.
You put it in presentation mode?
Well.
Yeah, let's see if I can get it to cooperate here. Yeah.
Where he is, looks like he's in outer space.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the.
How about that one?
Space station. There you go.
Looks good.
Okay, good. So in April, we started things off with Earth Month. So we've gone beyond Earth Day to Earth Month. And in particular in Houston, we used the Saturday before April 22nd as Houston Earth Day. So at Discovery Green, we had a lot of events. And in order to get started up for that earlier in the month of April, David Lowy, our new vice president, we'll get to that news here shortly, and I were interviewed on Channel 39. And there were some other folks there, Jessica from the EV bus group, and that was really good to have her there as well. You can see her next to me in the photo on the right. And a whole lot of other things that they were doing for Earth Month, getting going at the beginning of April. And we started up something else new in April, and we will hope to continue that. So let us know if you got interest or you have a favorite place. We did a batteries and brews, and got to see this in the photo in the upper right, this really nice Chevy EV that's now out on the market. As everybody knows, we're brand agnostic, so we like seeing all the different kinds of vehicles that are out there on the market now, as well as our home brewed, get it, brewed, vehicles that some of our members make. And we've had a couple more people asking about those lately. And we also had John Nemec go along with us up to the University of Houston campus. And here there's an honors class led by the professor. You see her there in the middle of the upper right photo. And it was great that we could go out there. So you can see Robert Sanchez, our VP through that time, along with Colin and David Lowy. And students were very interested. They were asking good questions. So we were glad to do that. And hopefully we'll do something with U of H again. And then some of our members went on the Austin rally. So they told us they had a lot of fun with that. And then we actually got to Saturday, April 19th, Earth Day. You can see we had 5 vehicles there on the left. And these students in the upper right wearing the red shirts, they were all from Dubuque, Iowa. And they were actually in town because of the robotics convention that was going on for the students. And you can see Seth there next to them. So he was talking to them and talking to lots of other folks there at Discovery Green. It was really a good event. And maybe sure that we're getting folks in from the waiting room. And so that was a good thing. And then, okay, back to my file here. Some of our members went over to the Americas Tower and showed off their EVs. And that was for the Sustainability Day of a particular company. So I was glad to see those kinds of activities happening. And then on the following Saturday after the Discovery Green Saturday, we had our IKEA showing of cars. And so it was great to see a lot of members come out there And we know that some members can't make it to the second Thursday meeting, so it's great to see them on a Saturday like this. And then you can see how widespread the events were all across the country on the map here for Drive Electric Month. And another big event was Susan's Rally, which some of our members went to. And so this is that announcement that we'd like to say thanks to Robert Sanchez. I don't know if he's in the room there with you guys. I don't see him in the online participants, but Robert has been very active for a number of years as our VP, and he has decided to relinquish that role over to David Lowy. So we're really glad to have David Lowy on board as VP, and he's starting off strong. You notice the numbers there behind him, 90.1. So I encourage everybody on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. to tune your FM radio to 90.1, as that's when you'll get to our Houston EV Hub radio show. And it's been going on for a few weeks now, and a lot of fun things that David has put in that show. So I encourage everybody not only to listen, but to call in, and we'll get to that info a little bit later. And he also went to our national meeting, which was moved from the West Coast to the East Coast for this year. It was up in New York State, and he happened to go, David Lowy happened to go, and you can see in the upper right there, Elaine Borseth, the president of the national organization. So even though we have no dues for our local chapter, we encourage folks who are interested to join the national chapter. The dues aren't all that much per year, and it helps. All the funds go to just coordination and things like that, because of all the national members on the board are volunteers as well. So, and in joining the national organization, you get some recurrent EV battery health info. You can get your EV connected up with that system. They let you know about the national events that are going on. It helps support the transition over from gasoline vehicles to EVs. And you can just be coming to our organization meetings, our chapter meetings, or joining the national one. You can start out by going to houstoneva.org. And some of the fees from national help with these EV one sheets, which get out of date really quick. So Colin probably has some there available for folks in the room there. He probably also has the supercharged comic book. And so you can get some of those things along with business cards and hand them out to friends and family. And as he says, the EV curious. So we had a lot of fun in April talking to the EV curious. Good turnout to all our events. And we've got some good things going on for our meeting tonight. But first, we'd like to say if somebody around knows a lot about Instagram, it would be helpful for our chapter for somebody to do that. And as far as radio show guests, everyone can do that. And the number is published widely, so that's available. And you can call in and just talk on the radio about your experiences or ask questions, whatever you'd like. And then for our monthly meetings presenting a topic, we always like our members to talk about the things that they're doing, what they're building, where they're going to, and how many EVs they see, and say, for example, a place like Iceland. So we will get into that. And at the end, we'll also have Bill and Colin talk about an EV 101 class opportunity at the location there, TxRx. So they can cover that at the very end of this 2-hour meeting. And here you can see some of the other things that TxRx offers. So we appreciate getting the free use of the space from them. And just anybody who's interested in the other things that TxRx offers, it's a great thing. So that's it for the meeting startup. So I will stop sharing. And okay, good. Now I can see folks on the screen here. Hopefully everything I've been saying has been coming through in an understandable way. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I see some heads bobbing and such. Okay. And Bob's given a 2 thumbs up. All right. Because Bob, I'd like to turn it over to you, but first I'd like to say it was through the event at Discovery Green that we met your coworker, Drew, and he was talking about the exciting things going on at your company, Bollinger Motors. And so we got tied up with you, and it's like, well, great, because a lot of times we're talking about cars, but of course, trucks are vehicles that we definitely need to electrify. And so we have the opportunity to hear from you, Bob, and I know you've been traveling around and busy, so I know there's lots going on. So
Yeah.
uh, I'll let
Thank
you
you.
introduce
Thank you for
yourself
that.
and call up your slides and all that. So thanks, Bob.
Thank you, David. So, yeah, just a little bit about myself. I'm also the vice president of the Space Coast EVA. So we have, we're in cahoots that way. We had a Earth Day event April 19th, also at the American Muscle Museum here in Melbourne, Florida. We had over 26 OEM vehicles there, and my truck was also counted as one of them. We had
Good.
about 80 club vehicle and member guests show up and talk about, their experiences. We did have a autocross ride and drive, so we had professional drivers for Mercedes and Audi blasting people around the course, like fast acceleration through some pylons, donut back, and then decelerate. I didn't get to go on that track with my truck, but we did have some road drives. Also, we had Lucid there, and also I took several people out with my Bollinger Class 4. A little bit of background: I've got over 85,000 miles of personal driving. I started off with the Mach-E, then have a F-150 Lightning right now, and then I also have 6,000 miles on my Bollinger. So my Mach-E, I raced at the Toyota Green Grand Prix at Watkins Glen. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's pretty cool. You get to go actually on the Watkins Glen racetrack for over 2 hours with your with your EV. I entered it with my Mach-E. I had a Mach-E Select. I was able to win first place in OEM and first place in the SUV class against Toyotas, Teslas, and a few others.
Nice.
It's not the fun thing about it is it's kind of fun. You get to go on the track, which is really cool, but it's all about efficiencies. So anybody who drives a Mach-E, I was able to attain 4.8 miles per kilowatt on my Mach-E, which is pretty good. I wasn't a show pony, so I didn't trailer it in. I actually drove it from Florida up to New York, Watkins Glen, and then did the race and drove back. Yeah, it was a 2,500 mile round trip. The idea is you not go under 35, not to go over 55. A buddy of mine was there with his GT, and once he figured out that I was going to beat him, he ended up lapping me about 6 times. He was just having fun.
Yeah.
And the following year, I went and took my Lightning up there, and I got 3.8 miles per kilowatt in my Lightning. I won first in class, first OEM, best looking truck, first in class pickup truck. If you haven't figured out, I was the only pickup truck that showed up. So yeah, so that was fun. So and then yes, Drew mentioned that he had fun at your event and asked that I could just give you all a quick overview of Bollinger Motors. And let me start with my slide deck here. Good. So Bollinger Motors makes low cab forward, class 4 truck. These are class 4 upfits. This truck right here is actually the truck that I drive right now. We are anticipating having a class 5 and a class 6. A class 4 is basically a small box truck, a 16-foot box truck. Gross vehicle weight GVW is 15.5 on our truck. I know that's starting to sound, maybe you guys will understand a little bit, but it's kind of like you can, once the truck is upfitted and all that, you can carry about 4,000 to 6,000 pounds of stuff in the truck. We're headquartered in Oak Park, Michigan. Design and build our commercial trucks there. And again, we're doing a 4 through 6 is our vision. And we we did the low cab forward because you'll see next slide. It's about visibility and all that. And, this is a niche that we're going after. Some of you may be familiar with the Bollinger B1 and B2, which was the SUV and the pickup truck a few years back. The way we pivoted during COVID to focus mostly on the commercial, well, completely on the commercial. The way I like to say it is we got to make some money before we can start building toys. So here's the dimensions. There's J1772. It's a dual rear wheel. I'll flip through these slides pretty quick. This is the low cab forward, so you have the visibility. This is key in major metropolitan areas. New York City is mandating that the low cab forward is there for the better visibility angles. So a lot of their, Chevy or Dodge, Ram, or Ford, medium duty 450, 550s, they're saying, nope, you got to have a low cab forward. So those are some of the, we're not just going after the Isuzus and the Rizons, but we're also getting some traction by, federal mandates on changing out that cab. It's a 46 foot turning radius, and I'll explain that in a minute. Everybody, when I go and do a donut in the truck, people say it's like crab walking. It's that much of an angle when you're going across. And the reason it has that angle is right here. So this is a 40-inch frame wide here. This is wider than a standard frame for an Isuzu or a Hino or some of the others, because they have a drivetrain down the middle, and then so their frames are only 32 inches wide. We have a 40-inch wide frame because we put our battery pack in the middle. So it makes, side impact issues, a little less prevalent. You're not having what we call saddlebags of, battery packs on the outside. Isuzu offers like a 2, 4, 6 battery pack configuration. So that's big out here. You'll see, probably flip back, but on ours, since the battery's here, it's a 178 kilowatt battery. You can put a toolbox on the outside. You can put some other stuff on the outside here. The reason there's a 46-foot turning radius is because Metalsa goes and bends the frame, and you see it start bending in here. So it goes from 40 inches to about 32 inches under the cab and back out to 40 here. And what that affords us is a 55-degree turning radius angle on the wheels. So that's what gets us the 46. Believe it or not, this 16-foot box truck, or 16-foot box truck, it's 22 foot long. This has a tighter turning radius than my F-150 Lightning. Yeah. It's 71% American sourced. So you got Dana e-axle. So the battery's here, the BCU, the brains are up here, and it drives the e-axle. So your motor and transmission and all is all one unit back here. So it is a rear wheel drive truck. And we do have an optional EPTO. So if you want to do a dump body, or you wanted to run, we're working on, we'll call it a compost to table. Basically, the restaurants are putting out their scrap food in these garbage cans. This guy comes along, picks it up, dumps it into the back of his truck, and puts it back down. There you need an EPTO. You need an additional power source for that. And then, and then they go and do their compost thing. We just delivered, or in the process of delivering, the Lower East Side Ecology Center up in New York City, and they're going to be doing some refuge also on theirs. These are the configurations. You can go box truck. This is the tow truck lift here. We are working through with a well-known upfitter on a service body here. With the bucket. So we've got a lot of interest in that. And then this is just a standard, toolboxes on the side type configuration. So this is what they look like a little more. This is what's called the contractor body. And then this is the box trucks here. This is a 16. No, this is just a 16-foot box truck. This is the stake bed that I drive down here in Florida, and then we also have a flatbed. You'll see there's like a clump in the back there. That's 2,500 pounds of workout mats, floor mats, garage floor mats. We have that in the trucks. So when people ask how far, what's your range and all that, we can say, well, the first thing I say is if anybody asks me, what's the range on it? I ask, how many asterisks do you get? You know, so is it full? Is it flatbed? Where's the hill? Where are you at? All this stuff. So from a low, we're getting around 150 if I'm doing I-95, you know, straight or highway straight, you know, 100% of the time, 75 miles an hour. To I had this stake bed here. I got 212 miles just doing what I call metropolitan area. So, you know, when you're talking Houston proper, Dallas proper, New York City, LA, yeah, you can get some really good mileage out of this truck. Again, there's the IRA incentive, 30% of the vehicle. The vehicle does list for $158,758, and that's, as you see, the chassis cab, and then that's therefore the 30% gets you the maximum of the $40,000 federal grant. That's still in existence today. And then you can see that we are qualified for the clean vehicle credit. So our name is right there, commercial vehicles, Bollinger. And then this link allows you to check on the different states. I did look at Texas. There really wasn't a lot going on in Texas. And I think you guys probably know that just as well as what I looked at, unless there's something I don't know about. And again, here's my phone number and that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I had a couple questions.
Robert Sanchez is always really good at asking some questions in advance to our speakers. And I should have mentioned earlier, anyone in the room, please ask questions, and anyone online, you can put them in the chat or ask verbally.
Yeah, feel free.
I've got a quick question. I don't know if you can hear me online.
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
So you mentioned that your frame is wider than your competition, which has a lot of benefits. Does it add any complexity putting the stuff on the back when it's maybe not a non-standard frame width?
So no, it does not. Actually, the upfitters like it because it's got a clean frame design. It's a clean chassis along the top. So these little build outs right here allow the cab to go, or the upfit to go all the way to here, to this line right here, and stay to the 40 foot. So Knapheide, Morgan, a lot of the upfitters, they have zero issues with ours being a little bit wider.
Okay. And is this fleets only, or could I buy one and build an RV on the back?
Yeah, you can do that.
Ask my question.
I'll send you over the order form.
That's an order form. You just asked my question.
Yeah, I mean, we've had that question asked a few times about, can you build, put an RV piece on there? You don't have the drive-through. The only thing that I would say is that this really is a metropolitan. It's a middle mile, last mile type of delivery vehicle. I've got to drive to Charlotte in 2 weeks. That's a 650 mile trip. Now, if I want to do 35 miles an hour all the way to Charlotte, I'll be able to get 200 plus miles. Well, I'm not going to do that. So you're going to have to stop a little bit more if you wanted to, turn this into an SUV or,
RV.
RV. Yes.
What's its provisions for higher speed charging?
So the max speed that we can charge at is 110 kilowatts. So I favor Electrify America when I go on my road trips up and down the East Coast. So I've seen it go on 110. It will level off a little bit. It will, step down. it steps down when somebody else pulls up and starts charging next to you. But, it's anywhere from 80 to 110 for a good, it's about an hour and a half to get up to 100% charge.
Is it about a 400 pack voltage?
It's an 800, it's a 800 watt. Yes.
Good.
Is that federal tax credit only for commercial buyers?
It's class 4. No, so it's not just for commercial buyers. It's class 4 vehicles.
So if one of us wanted to buy it and make an RV, we could get that tax credit.
Yeah.
And you said as delivered, so that's basically the, I guess referring to skateboard is 158,000?
This right here, this configuration right here, the chassis and then the cab. In the cab, you can fit three people. Well, 2 plus a big dog in the middle. It does. You can, on a turn. I've done it, and you can lay down some rubber on the back that does chirp the tires.
That good full torque from 0 RPM with electric motors. That's always wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. It likes a little bit of a rolling start, but yeah. Yeah, my 0 to 60 on my Lightning is 3.8. The 0 to 60 on this is like 17 seconds. So, yeah, but with the rolling start, it's a lot quicker. Robert said, in light of fewer federal dollars going to the EV R&D and purchases on an ever-growing supply chain due to recent on-again, off-again tariffs, what is your company industry doing to help overcome funding cuts and supply chain issues? Well, right now, we're not seeing any funding cuts because the federal government is still, giving you the $40,000. So what are we doing to say overcome the funding cuts? Buy now. Your company, industry, commercial trucks doing addressing infrastructure issues. What we like on this is I have a Florida Power and Light. I don't know if you're familiar with FP&L, but I have the unlimited. They don't like me right now because I have the $30 unlimited charging for off peak, which is at 9 o'clock at night till 12 o'clock the next noon, and then 9 o'clock on Friday till 12 o'clock on Monday. Flat $30. So they weren't thrilled that I had 138 kilowatt in my Lightning. Now I'm double dipping because if I'm not charging my Lightning and I'm doing travels, I'm charging this and I'm getting 158 kilowatts. So yeah, and the reason I bring that up is because you can overcharge. So we talk about you can charge overnight. We talk about depot charging is pretty much our preferred. You're not having to put in a level 3 and basically all that infrastructure at the headquarters or at the garage or anything like that. We're not having anybody come in and say we want to buy 50 of these. So you're not having that infrastructure challenge. What we're finding is we'll try it, we'll buy it, we'll look at it, and then we'll look to expand. And when they look to expand, that's a longer cycle in the capital expense if they need to add some level 3s. The dealer network that I put together, all these guys were either Ford certified, Isuzu certified, or Volvo certified. So they already had infrastructure at their facilities at a level 3. And I think what the other question was higher upfront sticker cost for those interested. We basically talked to, so right now in Tennessee, for example, there is Tennessee Volkswagen fund money in Tennessee, and you can buy my truck, this one right here, which would with the upfit's about $185,000 in Tennessee. If you're trading in a 2009 or older truck, you can get this truck for $12,900.
Whoa.
Yeah. So the guys that want to go and make an RV, I can tell you what part of Tennessee you need to move to, live there for 5 years, and you got yourself, you know, an RV.
5 years.
But you know, so how do we offset? We, you know, we call it the smile. You got the West Coast, you got the East Coast, and then you got the good weather in the South. That's where, you know, we're not up in North Dakota trying to sell EV trucks. You got the East centers in the North and centers on the West Coast, and pockets going through the country. So we have a gentleman on staff, Colin, and his job is to stay on top of all of the incentive money out there so that we can work with our dealer body and go out to our end users. We're in the process of getting, and I'm in the process, not me, the company, but it happens to be my dealer, my customer. We're in the process of getting a 15 unit order because of these incentives.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's what we're doing. That's how we're going to be moving the needle. So I think other than that, this is the last slide. Thank you guys for your time. And if you'd like to order one, here's my email address.
So if I could ask Bob just a little more specific about your FPL deal, how do they know when you're drawing a kilowatt hour that it's going into an EV? Did you have to get a second meter?
It's they supply the wall box unit.
Okay.
Yeah, so they supply the wall box unit, and they got their little intelligence inside there. So
Okay.
they know it's going. They know it's going into an EV.
Mhm.
They don't know if it's my Lightning or my Bollinger B4 or my neighbor's Mach-E, because the cord can reach over to him if he wanted to do it.
Mhm.
But that's, yeah, so there is a separate charging station. They charge you $800 if you disconnect before I think it's a 10-year agreement. But after 6 months, I'm already ahead of the game.
Sure.
So I was like, yeah, I'll sign a 10-year agreement at $30 a month. I think it's $31.28 a month.
Mhm.
Yeah. It pains me when I go traveling in the Lightning because, you know, here we go, Electrify America, 49 cents, 52 cents, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. The prices on the road are always more than at home, but especially for you, more than at home. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other, so two other little, little tidbits. So I have a Tesla tap. I don't know, you guys are familiar with Tesla taps, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I have that for my Lightning. So anytime I look, I'll go destination charger, charge overnight. But the other thing is, I did a test with my Bollinger truck, and I did it with my Lightning. And I don't know if any of you guys have done this, but on a Lightning, Ford was always telling me, oh, yeah, there's something beyond 0-0. When you're at 0% state of charge and 0% range,
Mhm.
you've got some little reserve. I can tell you emphatically, you do not have anything below 0-0 on a Ford F-150 Lightning.
Oh, okay.
You get one turn of the key.
Mhm.
And the reason they give you one turn of the key is because that's when the tow truck comes to pull you up onto the back of the tow truck instead of dragging your brick up onto the tow truck.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Now, I did it on purpose. Don't think I was an idiot. I did it on purpose because I wanted to see if that's what it was.
Mhm.
Luckily, the mayor was driving by. It was 0.6 miles from my house. He had a generator. It was right after hurricane warning. So everybody was charged up, plugged in, boom, 30 minutes later, I was able to drive, get home, and charge, no issues.
Yeah.
So I said, well, if Ford was lying about how far you can go, and I asked my engineers at Bollinger, I says, how far can you go below 0-0? They says, well, there's some miles there. I said, how far? They go, we're not going to tell you. And I go, challenge accepted. So when I got that 212 miles on my Bollinger truck, I kept going.
Mhm.
I got 270.4 miles of total metro miles
Mhm.
before I ran out.
Mhm.
Now, you can't throw this up on a tow truck real easy. So you say, well, Bob, if you ran out on your Bollinger, how did you get it charged up to get it home? Well, for $23, you can get a 220 plug adapter, RV adapter on the back of your Lightning that goes to a NEMA plug, and you turn your Ford Lightning into a mobile charging vehicle.
Smart. Yeah.
So I plugged my Ford Charger NEMA plug into that, put the other end into the, then plugged into the Bollinger, and I was sucking down about 2 miles of range on my Lightning, and I was adding about 1 mile of range on my Bollinger truck. I only needed 2 miles, and then I made it home and did the full charge.
Okay.
So that just, I try to let people know that, when we're dealing with fleets and they have a F-150 in their Lightning or electric vehicles in their fleets, if they have a F-150 or Silverado, get this $23 plug, and you basically have a mobile charger that can go out and top a guy off if he runs short a mile or two from the office.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate your time, guys. Is there any other questions?
So,
Okay, again, here's my phone number. If it's easier, just call me to order, and I'll take your order.
this has been very informative. I mean, just because a lot of times, of course, we're talking cars, and occasionally we're talking two-wheelers, or we're talking electric airplane developments, and even electric boats. Some of our members went up to a lake north of Conroe once to see a electric boat demonstrated and everything. And so this is great to get to know what's out there. As folks said, maybe RV type applications if they wanted to buy one personally. But just we're all familiar, of course, with seeing the Amazon delivery trucks going around neighborhoods and things like that. And so it's great to see more electrification of trucks, not just what Amazon did with its deal with Rivian. And so it's just really good to know that we can get more and more clean truck work getting done on the roads. And what you said about Tennessee, that's really amazing, but it just shows their seriousness.
Yes,
And
exactly. So
yeah, when we've talked with the Texas Electric Bus Project folks, I mean, it's just amazing how beneficial it is not to have diesel buses running around. I think they said in Texas there are 500 electric school buses so far out of 12,000. So
wow.
that just tells you the size of the magnitude. And of course, the school buses, they're emitting that diesel exhaust right there where those young developing lungs are at the bus stop,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and trucks going through cities. I mean, I know all of our members like it when we drive across through Houston and we know we're not emitting anything, regardless of your source of electricity, which of course is getting cleaner and cleaner. You've probably read some of the stats about Texas having a lot of wind power.
Yep. Yeah, and FP&L they promote that the electrons that are routed through my wall box into my truck is supposed to be solar. It's not mixing, so they're
Okay.
that's the other thing they look at. So
Yeah, and you mentioned the hours, and those are typically hours when there's a lot of wind power. Just generally, onshore wind power blows more strongly during the nighttime than during the day, which is a little bit unfortunate because, of course, we know that the late afternoon and evening is when the peak is now. And yeah, I've also seen here in Arizona that they actually have a super off-peak rate during the daytime, because if you remember decades back, peak was during the daytime. But during the months of November through April, they have so much solar power and there's just not as much draw as there is during the summer when, of course, AC is very popular during the daylight hours, that they actually have a super off-peak. It gets down to 3 point something cents per kilowatt hour during
wow.
November to April during those hours that are super off-peak, just because there's so much solar. And so, yeah, you're mentioning the solar there in Florida. I can really understand that. And Texas, I mean, it's had the wind for a while, but the solar is just growing fantastically fast in Texas going onto the grid.
Yeah. And lastly, Hurricane Nicole came through a couple years ago, and I was running my townhouse and my two neighbors' townhouse off the back of my Lightning for 14 hours. Yeah, and that got picked up by an article, and Jim Farley at the time reposted it and tweeted it out. So yeah. That was, it's, it does work, guys. I mean, my wife was originally, against it, but now she won't drive anything else.
Good. Yeah. And a lot of our members are interested in where their power for their EV comes from. And so we've had members that have talked about how they got really good setups, and more home PV setups are with batteries nowadays. And it's possible to actually have, here in Texas, we call it a retail electric provider that actually looks at the 15-minute intervals for rates and can actually manage your batteries and do quite a good job with those. So that's coming to a lot more folks too.
Cool. Great. Thank you.
Oh, a quick question there for you, Bob. Would you happen to know the coefficient of drag of your truck?
Nope.
No, wouldn't know. Okay.
That's the first time I've been asked that. I'll find out.
Well, just thinking of coefficient of drag stories, I always like the one. So I mentioned it was in New York State this year for our national meeting, but a couple years ago, I was at the national meeting in California, and it was hosted by the Aptera car folks. So you may have heard about the three-wheel, very efficient Aptera. So Aptera was saying that their coefficient of drag on their whole vehicle was the same as just the mirrors on an F-150. Yeah, I mean, we've all seen those big mirrors sticking out on the pickup.
Oh yeah. That's
So
great.
yeah, I mean that just
No, I'll follow up and I'll send you the answer to that, Dave.
okay, great.
Yeah, the
Great,
coefficient of
yes.
drag of a brick is about 1.05, so it's probably around.
Close there, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, you are correct. It's a brick. There, it's a brick going down the road.
Yeah, well, but going at slow speeds through town, it's
Oh,
not as big of a factor as when a vehicle's going high speeds. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, on the highway, I'm good at maybe 0.8, 0.9 miles per kilowatt. But I can tell you, when I was stalking the Miami Sanitation Department one night, trying to get a feel for the route and getting ready for the meeting, I was getting out like 1.5, 1.6. I mean, double, because you're just it's nothing moving. So
yeah. We've had our members talk before about postal trucks and garbage collection trucks and things that are just doing these little stop start. So yeah, you're not worried about the air drag because you're never getting up to speed during that segment. Then of course they go drive off to their base, but still their main function is just going slow.
Amazon first started driving their vehicles, I talked with one of my local drivers, and he said they increased my route by 50% because the truck will do it on the charge.
Ah,
He said I was driving 120 miles a day. Now they have me driving 170.
Dang.
wow.
And I haven't sweated the range.
yeah.
I still have 50 to 60 miles of range when I get back to the warehouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're doing what? 30 miles an hour most of the day?
Yeah. That's what I pulled in 212. Yeah. So, if you want to get a couple extra miles out of them, let me know.
They stop, they start, they keep their air conditioning running.
Yeah. Yeah. Air conditioning eats up about 1.8 miles per hour on my truck. I've tested that. So, so an 8-hour day, you're going to use up about maybe 12 miles of range.
So what do you have for heat? Do you have a heat pump or do you have resistant heat?
Resistance heat.
Okay.
That pulls a lot. In Florida? Well, not in Florida. Not in Florida, but the trucks they're selling up.
Oh no, you're right. Going up north, yeah, it does. That's back to my original question. How many Asteris's do I get to get?
Yeah.
Where are you using it? What amenities are you running?
So right now I'm in Florida, and I'm running I've got a stake bed. So I've got a Napide stake bed. So the chassis is 8,300 pounds. The total weight is 11,000 pounds GVW. So that's almost 2,700 pound stake bed. For some reason, somebody thought it was a good idea to put a steel stake bed in Florida. I've got a little touch-up spray paint, black spray can. So yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a corrosion problem, or let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
I would call it a corrosion problem. I would call it the paint not holding up problem to the Florida environment.
Yeah, it's a tougher environment down here. Yeah, they've realized some of the things that, oh, Florida, okay, we probably need to look at some of that. So, yep.
Yeah, and for the average person on the street, they're usually thinking air conditioning load. They're not thinking heat load because a gasoline car, of course, generally gives you free heat into your cabin. And so I've had to tell a lot of people, no, actually for EVs, you kind of, depending on where you're at, like North Dakota is obviously going to be cold more months of the year. You have to worry more about the heat load than you do the AC load.
Yeah.
Air conditioners are pretty efficient in cars, and you're just air conditioning a small little volume. It's
Yeah.
not like a house. So good that we're bringing out these concerns that people have and things that we know we can educate people about when we go out and have our events. So yeah, and anyone else there in the room or online with questions for Bob? So Bob, you're welcome to stay on. We're going to have Buzz talking about things going on here in Texas, and then we're going to have one of our members talking about some of the things that he's been doing. So you're welcome, and of course you're welcome every month, along with your other club members. We've done things with clubs in British Columbia and Ottawa and different places in the States and such. So it's always good to compare things between clubs, and so you and other folks are always welcome.
Okay, appreciate that. And thank you for the extended invite, but I do have another engagement I need to get to.
Gotcha. Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you
All
for
right.
everything. Thank you for inviting me. Bye now.
Thanks, Bob. Yep. Okay. Well, that was fun. Yeah, it's always good to get a variety of different things, different points of view.
We got Buzz here.
So how are things looking in the room there, Colin?
We have Buzz here.
Okay, and does he have a set of slides? Yeah, hey there.
You have slides?
No.
No, okay. So,
Okay. Where would you like him in the room, Colin?
yeah, that's the problem. When we got to that, can we move everybody up a little bit here and let Buzz in at the end of the table would be ideal.
Okay.
Yeah, in a situation like this, close to a microphone is good. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
All righty then.
A little hard to hear everybody. I have to tease you a little bit.
Of course. Hi, everybody. I'm Buzz Smith. I'm the executive director of the Texas EV Alliance. Texas EV, if you're unfamiliar with our organization, is really two sister organizations. I lead the C6, so we lobby the state government for EV adoption policies. The other side is a 501c3 nonprofit, which is barred from doing any lobbying, but they are an education project. So there's Texas EV Alliance and Texas EV Education Project. The education project funds, as you would expect, seminars for people to learn about EVs. We've got a road trip coming up in less than a month. And this is our first border-to-border road trip. We've done 4 road trips across Texas so far. And our focus on those road trips has been to meet community leaders, to meet the local chambers of commerce, but in rural areas. We're not going to big cities. We're going to rural areas because big city EV adoption's taken off. One of the things that is guiding us and informing us is a presentation I saw done by Chris Harto from Consumer Reports. So Consumer Reports, every year has a huge survey of automotive data and automotive owners. And they have taken that and really squeezed EV data out of it. And one of the most shocking things that I heard in that presentation is in the United States today, if you don't know anything about EVs, 40% of us say, I will never own one of those things. 40%. Now, if you see one in your neighborhood, it drops to 22%. If a friend gets one, 17%. You ride in one just a few times, 10%. You drive one just a few times, 4%. So you go from 40% negative to 4% negative by doing what your organization and my organization is doing, and that's educating people on these cars. Now, I got my first 2 plug-in vehicles, my wife and I did, in 2012. And right around that time, there was a photograph of a Chevy Volt coming off the assembly line, and guess who sat in the car? President Obama. Well, immediately, Rush Limbaugh started saying, oh, if you buy a Chevy Volt, it can just burst into flames at any moment. If you drive more than 40 miles, you've got to stop and recharge overnight. You know, this is a plug-in hybrid we're talking about. So you just bald-faced lies. And so obviously we had some politics going on here just because of the hatred of Obama. And so a lot of people have been out there arguing, and that does not work. That does not change people's opinions at all. And so we've got to stop the arguing and start persuading. Now, persuasion and politics are interesting because I've been in software sales before I retired to do this full time. I was in software sales for about 20 years, and I changed careers the 1 year after I got our first 2 plug-in vehicles to go sell Chevy electric vehicles. And so I went to work for the largest Chevy dealership in the world up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I sold more plug-in vehicles than anybody in Texas for the 6 years that I was doing it. But what I found, I went in there, you know, I bought my car because I wanted something that didn't pollute. I wanted my kids to have a planet, you know, when we got there. But what I found when I got to the dealership, people would come in and actually be interested in test driving an EV or a plug-in hybrid. And I would say, oh, are you concerned about climate change? And no lie, at least 50% of the time, the people would say, oh, that's that liberal crap. And they would do an about face, walk out of the dealership, get in their car and leave because of the politics. The politics in our country is broken. Well, sales is persuasion. And in persuasion, you have to speak their language. And what we have to start focusing on, and let's be obvious about this, okay? Obvious, most Democrats love electric vehicles. Most Republicans, up until the recent election, hate electric vehicles. Then somebody threw $300 million into the election who happens to own or run an EV company. And now we're like deer in headlights. There are a lot of conservatives who have been vehemently anti-EV, and now they don't know what to think because the guy that backed their presidential candidate owns an EV company, and they're all kind of stunned. And this is a great opportunity for us to change opinions, because for the first time in the last 13 years, they're open to listening because they realize something weird is happening here. How many people heard Elon Musk called Tony Stark, say maybe 5-6 years ago? You know, all of us that loved our EVs, we just really started worshiping this guy, and they demonized him. And now it's exactly the opposite way. You're seeing swastika and, you know, Sieg Heil salutes. I actually went out and had a bunch of magnets. And if any of y'all have Teslas and want one, I've got some out in the car. But you know those oval stickers that have like 26.2 for people who run marathons, or 13.1 for half marathons. You see NL for the Netherlands, UK for the United Kingdom. I have one that just says B4. And it's to let people know I bought my Tesla before Elon started doing all this stuff. And I when I do these road trips, like today or yesterday I drove to Austin, today I drove down here. When I charge at the Tesla superchargers, I go around from car to car and give people these magnets and say, you know, put it on your car, maybe it'll keep you from getting keyed. And believe it or not, I'm hearing just nightmare stories. A lady just 3 hours ago at a Tesla charger showed me, it looked like they had taken vice grips and grabbed the fender or a ball peen hammer, and just there were all these, you know, damage on their fender. And the only reason was that it was a Tesla, it's an electric car. So when we're talking to conservatives and we need to speak their language, we need to understand what they're concerned about. And Texas politics is really concerned in the EV world about one thing, and that's the electric grid. The ice storm, the ice storm Hugo was a big deal. That was a real political mine that went off, and they know that if this happens again, it's their jobs. You know, they told us we're going to get it all straightened out, and they want the grid to be in good shape. Now, every year I attend the Energy Summit in the state capitol. It's a 3-day event. There's a conference. There's all sorts of panels you can listen to. And again, one of the most amazing things I heard in that is in the next 6 years, Texas has to increase its electricity generation by 80%. Now, this is a grid we've had in Texas for 100 years now, and we've got to almost double the capability of that grid within the next 6 years. Now, they were saying, oh, EVs are going to crash the grid. And what we're actually finding is EVs are going to contribute to electricity grand demand growth of about 3.2% over the next, say, 6 to 10 years. It's not that big a deal. What is a big deal? Artificial intelligence data centers, Bitcoin data centers. These things are going to use a lot of energy. And now there's a new phrase in Texas, BYOG. It's bring your own generation. If you're going to bring a big data center here, bring your own electricity to run that thing, because we are tapped out right now. You know, we're doing everything we can. And I read recently of one company that's actually going to install nuclear reactors at their facilities, new modern design, but that's how they're going to supply their energy. So how do we talk about the grid when it comes to electric vehicles? Well, I've got great news there. House Bill 3511 recently passed, and I'm only talking about the Texas legislature. We do not work at the national congressional level, except with other nonprofits. So Texas passed House Bill 3511, and it is a bill that is to let us connect our electric vehicles to the ERCOT grid and supply electricity and be paid for it. Now, up until now, any vehicle you could own was a depreciating asset. All you did was put money in it and pay for repair bills, pay for fuel, pay for insurance, and eventually the car is worthless and you get rid of it. We all know electric vehicles, probably the battery packs are going to last longer than the car does. These cars are going to be around for a while. And we have been pushing, our organization has, and the Energy Action Fund has been pushing for this bill to get passed so that we can supply electricity to the grid. So you're already seeing GM has got a division called GM Energy. Ford is coming up with an energy division. Tesla already has Tesla Electric, and I'm a customer. All those companies are heading that way. The people who make the chargers are developing bidirectional chargers. Now, bidirectional chargers, $4,000. The portable charger that I carry around, and I've got just about every adapter you can possibly have for any kind of plug I might come up against, cost me $250. So bidirectional chargers are going to be what's important. Now, in Texas, when is the grid really under strain? Well, it's summertime, because a lot of people have natural gas afternoon and evening. And where are you in the afternoon?
Where am I in the afternoon?
On a weekday?
So on a weekday, by 5 o'clock, I'm home.
By 5, you're home, but where are you before that?
I'm on the road.
Okay, but those of us that go into an office to work, it doesn't make sense to put bidirectional chargers in somebody's home other than to power that home. When it comes to the grid, they should be at our workplace.
Yes.
So we really need to advocate for workplace charging that is bidirectional. And we need the OEMs to modify the software of the battery control system to allow us to say, I will let you have this much of the electricity in the car if the grid's under strain, and you pay me X dollars.
Yeah, because it's by 3 o'clock, my solar panels aren't keeping up.
Right.
And I'm starting to draw down my battery.
Yeah.
And this time of year, my battery is still doing fine. But in another month, by 6 o'clock, I'm drawn from the grid like everybody else.
Yeah.
Because I forget how they call that phenomenon. It's a drawdown, the solar drop down.
Duck curve.
Yeah.
The duck curve. Yeah,
Duck curve.
that's the word I'm looking for, duck curve.
Yeah.
And our EVs, I get home at 5 o'clock, I plug the EV in. If it's bi-directional, I can be bolstering. I may not be helping the grid. I may not be pushing stuff into the grid, but I'm pushing it in my house, not pulling it.
Yeah. And one thing, you can reinforce the grid, or you can take your home off the grid. It's the same thing, right? Now, one of them is an efficiency play. I'm going to conserve the grid energy and run my house off of my car. The other one is actually a rescue play where you're going in and saying, hey, the grid's going down. I'm going to send energy to the grid.
Well, either way, you're helping.
Either way, you're helping keep the grid
the
stable.
grid up.
Exactly.
You can
It's arbitrage.
the
You
grid.
buy low, sell high, right? It's just simple.
Yeah, and
arbitrage.
that's the important thing, is we're going to be able to participate for the first time as individuals in energy arbitrage. And you may not know this, but a kilowatt hour of electricity in Texas can be as expensive as $9 a kilowatt hour. What I pay 14 cents for at my house. So if I can start buying stuff at 14 cents and selling it, I wouldn't get $9, but I might get $5 because the aggregator has to make some kind of profit too.
Right now, when I ship up through the day, I get a whopping 3 cents.
Yes, yeah, and most people do. That's wholesale
That's
energy prices.
That's not even
Green Mountain
that's
will
not
pay
even-
a retail, but it's
Well,
still
that's not even
chump
wholesale.
change.
That's not even wholesale, but yeah, but Green Mountain will charge, Green Mountain wouldn't give me my free overnights where I'm charging 3 EVs.
Right. Yep. And so we were thinking about, we've got 38 solar panels. We were thinking about adding battery storage. And what hit me was, wait a minute, my car is the equivalent of 5 Tesla Powerwalls. So why am I going to go spend $20,000, $25,000 to get a couple of Tesla Powerwalls at my house if we can get the bidirectional charge? Now, my Tesla doesn't support bidirectional. That's where we need the OEMs to change things.
Well, Buzz, if you're on Tesla Power
Yes.
and you're buying and selling through them, you are doing bidirectional off your Tesla, provided it's new enough. The question is, will you still generate with just your car plugged in, or do you need a small battery in the system to give some place for your power to be able to go?
What do you mean?
So with the Freezing 21, I just had solar, I didn't have any batteries.
Yeah.
I had beautiful bright sunny days, and since I didn't have the ability to form my own microgrid because I had no battery, I was just dead.
Yeah.
Once I put batteries in, I can't tell you when the power's still on.
Yeah. And
Oh,
this is
yes, I can,
something
because I
that,
get a notification.
yeah, and this is something our elected officials now understand. So they were caught off guard by wind energy. They thought, oh yeah, let the liberals go play with wind energy. It's not going to be a big deal for oil and gas. And it surprised the hell out of them how fast wind grew. And so now there's a bill in front of the House and Senate that is and it's a dangerous bill because they want counties near the coast that have wetlands that birds migrate through to be able to not approve any new wind turbines. And not only that county that has the wetlands, but all the neighboring counties too. And we all know how the politics are here in Texas. The more rural you get, the more conservative you get. And in the past, the more anti-EV you got. So we got to take the message to the public in the rural areas. We got to speak their language. Here is the most impactful thing I've ever said to conservatives. It seemed to stun them when I said this. I said, you know what? The atomic bomb did not win World War II. And they'll be like, it's like their brain's about to explode. This is everything they've learned in history is the atomic bomb is why we won the war. No, we won the war because of American manufacturing. I mean, they were bombing all the factories in Europe. If any country could make the equipment and get it into the war, it was us. And if you've seen the movie Ford versus Ferrari, there's a moment where Ford is standing there looking out the window and he's got Carroll Shelby next to him and he's about to fire him because he didn't win the race. And at one point, Ford says, you see that building over there? And Shelby looks over and says, yeah, and he goes, 60% of the B-29s that flew in World War II came from that factory. Well, that was the strength of our country. That's what we did. And that's how we stopped fascism last time. So now, who's our number one adversary in the world? I'm open.
China.
Yeah, it's China. I mean, in the old days, when I grew up, I took Russian in college because I thought I want to be able to say, don't shoot, don't shoot. But now, you take Mandarin. Okay, China's our number one adversary in the world. And they have the lead in artificial intelligence. They have the lead in supercomputing, or actually the quantum computing. They have a vast lead in electric vehicles that's terrifying all of our manufacturers. So we are thinking about putting these laws in that make it harder for people to buy an EV, which weakens our manufacturing and increases the strength of who's manufacturing? Our number one adversary in the world. How smart is that when it comes to national security? And that starts changing the conversation. So we got to stop talking about particles in the air and air pollution and asthma and that kind of stuff. And we've got to start talking about what these people care about. So the number one is that connection to the ERCOT grid. And again, that was House Bill 3511. It did pass the House. There is an exact duplicate of that bill that's in the Senate. That one's kind of been shelved to the side so that the House bill can be passed to the Senate. And there are times that people who are actually in favor of EVs are accidentally putting out bills that are going to be hurting us. One of them was all refueling facilities, including EV charging facilities, have to be able to take cash. Now, what is that going to do to us? Now, you could have, like an ATM or something, but that's not going to work in the real world. This person wants people of limited means that maybe don't have strong credit card capabilities to still be able to get an EV. And that's a noble thing. But the fact is, if you try to change the electrical charging network like that and make them put card readers or cash acceptors on these things, it's going to kill that industry. That bill looks like it's died. I don't think it's going anywhere, but that was somebody that was trying to help the industry out. There have been several bills come out to increase the penalty for sabotaging electric vehicle chargers. And there's also parallel bills that are increasing the penalties for sabotaging gasoline dispensers. So the smart thing that some of these bills are doing is they're starting to talk about electric vehicle chargers exactly like a gas pump. And they're going to combine these bills where it's any refueling equipment and an electric vehicle charger or EVSE is considered electric or a vehicle refueling equipment. So we're starting to already see things moving towards thinking of an EV as just another car. And that's a good thing for us. There is a bill, House Bill 1846, to establish an electric truck advisory council. That one was passed in the House, so that's going to now go on to the Senate. That's a good one. There is also an advisory council for electric vehicle supply. Advisory board is going to be created. That bill also passed, and that was in the Senate. It has not passed the House yet, so that one's going the other way now. But there are good bills out there. But the interesting thing is our professional lobbyist that we have has said, and he's been doing this for 40 years, he said, this is the worst legislature he's ever seen as far as getting something done. Because I don't know if y'all knew the House Speaker last session, is no longer the House Speaker. There was a big to-do about that. And he was one of the people that pushed for the impeachment of the Attorney General, Ken Paxton. And so there's Republicans battling Republicans right now. And so they wanted no Democrats to have leadership positions in committees. And they fought that for the first month. I mean, we've got less than a month before our legislature shuts down for the next year and a half, which is a good thing. Let's let them go home and leave us alone for a while. They're putting in things that I think have a really good chance of helping us out. Now, if you guys get a chance, visit our website, txev.org. If you join us, we will also email you if there's something really critical. You'll receive an email that has the title Legislative Alert. We're telling you, hey, they're about to jerk us all around, and we need you to pick up the phone or make an email and send it to your representative. Now, everybody thinks, again, that EVs are liberal, but I took NCTCOG, the North Central Texas Council of Governments, collected the data of EV registrations by vehicle, by zip code for the entire state of Texas, and they've got 38 spreadsheets, which is a snapshot each month. So I took those 38 spreadsheets, combined them into one, and I could animate the change graphically on a map over time. And if you look in Houston, where did the adoption light up first? It was a big ring like 1960 and out, or Beltway 8 and out. You look at Austin, it was Northwest Austin where there's high money and very strong Republican voting. San Antonio is far west San Antonio, but everywhere you look, it's Republican areas and high population density. I also was able to take the map of Texas EV adoption and compare it with TxDOT's map of what they call urban roads. Urban road, it's a city, it's higher population. When I overlaid those, guess what? EV adoption happens where there's people. The more people there are, the faster the adoption is. And Consumer Reports told us why that is. Because once you see one, once you drive one, once you ride in one, you want one. So of course it's going to take off in the cities first. And that's why our mission is to get out into the rural areas and work with those people to try to get things going there. So this trip we're going to do is going to start at the end of this month. I think it's the 30th, and it's going to go for almost a week. We're going to start at the Texas border just at Shreveport, Louisiana, and we're going all the way to El Paso. So we are going tip to tip in Texas. It's almost as far as you can go east to west in Texas. And we're doing it different this time. We're not going to meet with chambers of commerce. We're not going to meet with local political leaders. We're actually going to shoot a short documentary. And have any of y'all seen the TV show, The Texas Bucket List?
Yeah.
Okay, guy goes driving around seeing all this cool stuff in Texas. And I was meeting my dad recently down by Austin, and it turns out that the Texas Bucket List Museum and Studio is in Bryan College Station, which is real close to where I was. So I went over to check it out. I've written to them to see if they can help publicize this ride. And if any of you guys want to go on a part of it, check our website. You'll be able to see what the route is, what the dates we're going to be at these different places. Y'all are welcome to come along too. But we would just want to talk to people. And we're going to go through all these NEVI stations that didn't exist even 8 months ago. So going from Shreveport to El Paso used to be almost impossible in Texas unless you had an incredibly long-range electric vehicle. We're planning this trip with something no more range capable than a non-extended range Mustang Mach-E. And so we're talking about, and we need to take more non-Teslas. I mean, everybody sees Teslas. If somebody buys an electric vehicle, the first question, if you said, hey, I bought a new electric vehicle, the first question your friend's gonna ask, oh, is it a Tesla? Just because, you know, they have 60% of the market. We want to grow the understanding among people that there are less expensive choices out there that are very good cars. The Chevy Equinox, the Chevy Blazer EV, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6, the Kia EV6. Those are fantastic vehicles. And we just need to get the public to realize they're not that expensive anymore. Now, because of all this distraction in the legislature, the governor's #1 thing to get done this time was school vouchers. And it looks like he signed that bill. So he got what he wanted, or he was going to call a special session and bring him back. He got what he wanted. The lieutenant general wants to get rid of all the CBD dispensaries in Texas. Texas Monthly did an article, and it turns out it's really pot. You know, it's really getting people high. And so the lieutenant governor wants that. But that's what they're focused on. The $2,500 Texas EV rebate that runs out of money every 2 years is sitting out there and may get renewed because nobody's paying attention to it. It's a TURP program. It's funded by TURP. And unless they actually make the step to go kill that, it's just going to get renewed and happen again. So keep your fingers crossed. We're not going in and fighting for it. Because again, if we do that, there's some conservative that's going to go, oh, I need to put a bill to kill that. You know, we don't want to do that anymore. So it's month the word. We're not going to talk about it. And hopefully it'll.
Not knowing, just knowing what to lobby for, it's knowing when to keep your mouth shut.
That's a fact. And that's conversations with my wife, the same thing. I've got to be careful. And sometimes it's better to keep my mouth shut. But that's the thing. We need to speak their language. We need to not rile them up if we can help it. We need to let them go and work on the things that they want to work on and not worry about it if it doesn't affect the EV world specifically. But if you guys aren't involved with the electric grid, start learning about it, start getting into this area, because this is the language that they're going to listen to you about when you start talking about that electric grid, because they're all terrified. There are so many companies moving to Texas right now, the grid is only going to get worse. And we've got to invest tons of money. Well, if we invest tons of money building power plants, guess what? The price of electricity goes up and they still lose their jobs because everybody's going to get pissed off about their electric bills. So we've got to start planting the seed that we can keep electric prices lower. In fact, electric vehicles actually lower the price of electricity. And it's because we buy electricity that would normally not be sold because there's nobody using it in the middle of the night when our cars are charging.
It's curtailed.
So by doing that, it spreads out that cost of all the infrastructure they built, and it keeps the price of electricity down. So it's kind of counterproductive. We've always heard you increase demand, you increase price. Here we're increasing demand, but we're doing it with exactly the right timing that brings the price down. And that's what we need to share with politicians. So again, whenever you're talking to your conservative friends, don't get into arguments with them. Think about what they care about: national security, international competition. Those are the things that they care about, and talk to them about how EVs affect that. And then turn around and take them for a test drive. Have any of y'all given a complete stranger a test drive? That is the best freaking thing you can do to change the world. Keep doing it. Now, it can be a dangerous thing. I gave this gigantic guy a ride in my car, and I have to admit, I was thinking, I hope he doesn't take me out in the country and kill me or something. He had a great time and told me his next car was going to be an electric car. So this is the most important thing that y'all can do. It's the most important thing our organization can do, is get butts in seats. And if we do that, and we speak excitedly, like all of us do, when we talk about our cars, we get jazzed, we get talking faster, we get more animated. People think, what is it with this guy? Why does he like that car so much? And it changes their minds, where at least they're a little open to at least going for a ride or test driving one. And that's the key. Once we get them in the car and get them driving it, we got them. I mean, it's going to happen. A lot of the naysaying out there has actually all been proven false so many times that it's finally sinking in. I mean, I can't tell you how many times on Facebook I would go in and just blast some disinformation that was out there. And literally a year later, the exact same photographs, the exact same text comes up, and I'm fighting that same battle again. Maybe we need to stop doing that.
Yeah, let it die a natural death.
Yeah, let it die a natural death. Don't keep arguing. Don't keep trying to correct people, but change the conversation to what they care about and show them how an EV can help that. And that's how you change the world, guys, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
Yes.
so Buzz, this is great. So in the chat, there are some comments and questions. I don't know if you have a screen there close by or you can see it in the room, but I can go over things verbally here just so that we're covering the things that people have written about. So Steve Hanrahan has asked, can someone talk about the outrageous vehicle registration fee for EVs? How can we get it reduced to reality? So we know that it's our friends there in Austin that decided that EV owners should be paying $200 and I think a brand new one $400 initial.
This session, they were trying to get 400.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
what you should realize is at the national level, they're trying to get a $1,000 fee when you buy an electric vehicle. And they want to create a road use fee, which is what the 200 is already supposed to be for.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So now we're getting double taxation.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's federal gas tax and state gas tax. I mean, there's always been both for quite a long time. So yeah.
Yeah, but
And then another person that wants to help the grid, that wants to help EVs, wants to charge sales tax on the electricity that's sold from a charger.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah.
Again, that's double taxation. I'm already paying that 200 a year, and now, and which is the equivalent, or not the equivalent, but supposed to be the similar to gasoline tax. This is a tax on, my fuel, basically.
Except it's 4 times what I would be paying.
Except it is multiples, yeah, sometimes much more than 4. So,
Well, I had an efficient car.
Yeah. So in the chat, there's additional comments. People have been adding to that thread. And so, but to go on to a couple of different things, I mean, somebody's comparing the weights of vehicles and so forth. But the comment from one writer is that your reference to the 60% of the planes built in that one building, he's saying actually those are B-24s, not B-29s. The
say it
B-29,
again.
B-24s and not B-29s.
Get some aerospace people here.
Yeah. So so you might want to check into that because he's saying the 29s were built in Fort Worth. So I'm sure people in Fort Worth knew what they're building. So yeah, the difference between a 24 and a 29, a B-24 and a B-29. And then the last comment here that I'll bring up, I'm curious about needing to increase the Texas electric network by 80%. What is the source and the period of time for that?
The source was the Texas Energy Summit at the state capitol. So there were, politicians in attendance as well as grid operators and, people that do this for a living.
Mhm.
But that's how fast that population is moving to Texas and how fast huge data centers are moving to Texas. And, it's a good thing for our state to have these businesses move here, to have these people move here. It increases tax revenues, which lowers all of our taxes and all that. But at the same time, they're bringing energy demands. And, when I was a kid growing up, we had one TV in the house. How many TVs do you have in your house now? How many computers do you have? You didn't have computers back when I was growing up. So our use of electricity has taken off. And at the same time, our population has taken off, which is driving that demand for electricity even further. So we've got to start using that, not as something that they beat us up with, but as a way to get them to realize that, hey, if you will let us plug our cars in and give you some of the electricity when under your strain, we can save you. We can save the day. And when we start having those conversations, and those conversations are happening at the state capitol right now, it's changing people's minds. So it's kind of the conservative side is kind of getting fractured, where you still have some that are very anti-EV, but a bunch of them are much more moderate towards it now. There are quite a few of our legislators that drive electric vehicles. I've walked through the garage and seen them. They're there. So, and these people that are driving the cars, they're just like us. They all became fans too, but because of their political affiliation, maybe they have to be quiet about it around their other party members. But they still love their car just as much as all of us do. And it is affecting their votes. It's educating the way they vote about these cars. And we just have to make sure, one, we don't make them angry by just arguing with them all the time. And then two, persuade them by talking to them about what they care about.
Okay, good, good. Well, Buzz, I appreciate everything that you do in Austin and everywhere else, and you've talked about exciting things with the trip and everything. So we thank you for everything you've talked about tonight and everything that you keep doing.
Thank you very much for having me out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. So, and before we get to the next speaker, if we have a sign-in sheet in the room there going around, if folks can sign in just so we can kind of record a little bit of who all is there. On the online, we have our participants list. So I've got that, but for folks in the room there. And for anyone with a computer, there's some more information here with some numbers that sound really good. Thanks to Robert Horton for putting that into the chat. So yeah, we can look into that some more.
Pass the House. It's going to the Senate, but we expect it to pass.
Okay. So Colin, is Bill Swann ready to?
Yeah, we're gonna start with Michael's got a short little presentation here about
Okay, yeah.
a new car you got.
Yes, I always loved it when I've seen those ComutaCars, and yes, about bringing one back to life is a wonderful thing. Yeah. All right.
There must have been a similar bill for battery storage, right? That
All
also
right.
passed through council,
That's already how.
right? That maybe a year or two.
Well, hello, everybody.
For people who had storage at their homes.
This is my
And
first
that was
time
the
here.
test bed for everything.
Nice to meet all of you. My name is Michael, and this will be my first EV car, surprisingly enough, and it's one of the earliest ones, so I guess it's really fitting. Sadly, this is not mine. This is the ideal. This is what I would like it to look like. So in case you didn't know what it was, here's some basics about it. 1979 to 1982 by Commuter Vehicles. It was originally, this is basically the second model. There was the original city car in 1975, and then Commuter Vehicles bought them out and then started selling them again. 48-volt electric system with lead acid batteries, and it ran off 8 6-volts. So this thing is kind of heavy. You know, it wasn't the fastest thing around. As you can see, the top speed is maybe 40. They said a lot of things, and from a lot of people I've talked to and read about, that number is a big maybe. And the range is also
Like the wish you were on hold.
yeah, exactly. I didn't know that a lot of companies can just lie. So that's
Oh.
yeah.
It's called marketing. They run one controlled test
Mhm.
where they fit it, and then they can say, oh,
Mm. Devil's in the details, as they say.
like the Bollinger guy said, how many asterisks do I get?
Ah, exactly.
The speed at which it will never.
And do you have
exceed.
one of these now?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, go ahead and.
Oh, yeah, okay. And of course, body made of plastic. Interesting. So this one's mine. This is the one I have. As you can tell, it's missing a few things. I will say, I do have the headlights. They're just in storage. I also have the windows, but they're cracked. So don't worry about that. So I recently bought this off Facebook Marketplace. They wanted 1,000. I talked them into 400. So that was some really good negotiation.
In other words, they wanted it out of the.
They wanted it out, yeah. I wish I knew that.
Well, you offered them 400 and they took it. That
Yeah.
tells you something.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I found it in Porter, Texas, so it wasn't that far from here. Yeah, and I rented a U-Haul, pushed it up, took it home. But as the body is pretty good, I'd say. Yeah, and the inside didn't look too bad, but it does need a lot of work. It needs the whole battery system, the wiring, and the cosmetic things. It's just aesthetics. Here's some exterior photos of it. That's the problem.
Oh, we can upgrade it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So here's the back. Like I was saying, there's some cracks there. Little gaps in the window. Yeah, but it has new tires, so that's pretty
Yeah.
good.
You know what the size is on the tire?
$400 worth of tires.
Maybe, the thing, I do have that, I didn't write it on here, but,
12-inch or 13?
I think it's 12.
They look like a 12.
Yeah, cause I know you can get them pretty easily, they weren't too hard to find from what I was learning.
Is it, if it's running, is it street legal?
Yes, it is street legal, I have verified, I've also found out ways to get it registered. Could do several things like the classic car route. I could
She's old
also,
enough to be an antique.
yes, it is, I'm also, in theory, you could also classify it as just a golf cart. And it basically is just yeah, it's basically a golf cart with like a premium.
You might be able to avoid the EV registration.
Will it have air conditioning?
Maybe, I think
You
there's
take
more
on the
to it.
road, I bet.
Air conditioning,
You have
well,
to
yeah, my
register
roll
to
down
drive it on the
windows.
road.
Even vintage,
Yeah, of course.
even vintage.
Or maybe 230?
Yeah, if it's
Now,
electric power.
And here's some more pictures on the side. Emblems got replaced with an Mercantile. I guess it was a choice. It's missing a little gasket door. And on the bottom, I don't know if I can.
So you don't get terror.
Yeah, exactly. This was American made.
American.
It may look European, but it's definitely American made. Here's the interior. I'm missing the dashboard, and whoever had it before me took out all the wiring. I do have it. I just don't think it's a good idea to use it.
It's great model.
Don't have the wire.
Mhm. It's just, yeah, there was basically a rat's nest in there, like figuratively and literally. Yeah. Here's the motor. There's some pictures of the motor. As you can see on the left side, it's a close up. All the rust kind of got rid of all the details there on the plate. On the right side, you can see that it was exposed. Yeah, so those brushes are really bad. Yeah, in theory, you could maybe replace the brushes and it'll start working again, but I'm pretty sure that thing is toast.
Catch fire, no.
Yeah, and then here's just more angles of it. There's the inside under the seat. This is where where everything's accessible. And somebody put a controller in here. Now, originally, this was not there.
No.
Yeah, as I've noticed, because of how shiny it was compared to everything else. And to preference this, I have no idea what any of this stuff was originally. This isn't my forte, I'm a cameraman. I do video and photography. So a lot of this stuff is alien to me. But I'm glad to be in a room with people who actually do know what this is. So I found this out. I was looking at it, there's other angles of it. And, you know, make that what you will. I did get some stats off it. Bill helped me find this out. This is most likely the model of it. Also not really sure what to do with this information, but there you go. And then there's, you know, troubleshooting, there's installation guide. And I wanted to compare it. Steve showed me his, he also has a car. The exact same year too. His is a lot more stock. So no one has tampered with it. His is straight from the factory, exactly the same. Mine, as you can tell, was definitely tampered with. Somebody bought it, somebody did things to it. It is definitely not the same. So originally, this was the motor system of when we bought it. And they used the contacts. You know, there you go. Also, on the original, there was a forward and reverse, with just a little dongle there. On mine, there's a whole ass thing right there. And yes, you can see a wasp nest right there. I did take that out.
Good.
That is not there anymore.
They took that out of a golf cart.
Yes. So I thought that was very interesting.
Between that and the controller, it looks like maybe they were trying to retrofit
Mhm.
all the
golf cart.
electronics.
Right.
Yeah,
Not in that.
so, hopefully some progress was made, I'm not entirely sure. And I was able to find a diagram of the original wiring schematic. This was recreated by someone else who was trying to get their car running. Surprisingly, there's a lot of people who have done this before. There's a lot of different methods. One person put a Hayabusa motorcycle engine inside of his. to get that thing going really fast. I feel like if I were to do that, that thing would just rip apart. Like like Flintstones, I would just be like that. So I'd rather not do that, but. Yeah, so this is, you can see on the top left, the batteries, how they're in series and how it all just led to this. Most likely not doing this the same way. But here's a quick rundown of what I know. I bought a marketplace. The person I bought it from didn't know much about it, said it was their grandfathers. Not entirely sure I believe that. Just because of the ages involved, I was doing numbers, didn't really add up. And they replaced the original electronics. The brakes do work. I did test that. Pushed it down the hill, hit the brake, worked. So how, safe and well off they are, I don't know. But they did do the job. The handbrake does not move. It is completely lodged. I don't know, maybe something stuck or, yeah, most likely. New tires probably do need air. And this is, I was talking about it over there. I thought it was interesting. As I was cleaning the inside, I found a phone mount that was on it, which makes me believe, in theory, that somebody was driving it at one point and had the phone there just to like.
Well, with the golf car electronics, they might have been around town.
Exactly.
Local.
Yeah, which is, I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that's the best case.
Well, the wheels all turn, variants are frozen.
Yeah, the wheels turn. That's a good question. The wheels definitely turn.
So that it's definitely moved within the last few years.
Yes. So there's hope. That's the main thing.
Speaking about someone who's pulled out vehicles that have not moved in a while.
Oh, I thought there was, is there more to that?
That's in a roll. Tells you it's moved in the last few years.
Okay, good. Yeah, nothing's locked up. It all moves. So I'm really happy. But here's all the things that are missing. I forgot to add, it's also missing side mirrors. But aside from that, bumpers. And to be honest, I don't think I want to bump anything with this car. So that's just aesthetics, if anything.
It'll bump back.
Yeah, emblems, aesthetics, dashboard and components. Considering this is now, using a controller and it's not using the original electronics, I feel that whatever was originally in the dashboard would have been useless anyway. So I'm not entirely sure what to put in there.
Yeah, just 3D print some custom panels. Put what you want in there.
You brought it to here.
You get a hilariously sized
Project out of it.
I did buy a cassette player. I do want to put a cassette
I got some
player.
cassettes for you.
Me too.
That should probably be an 8-track.
I was gonna say.
I thought about
There
it.
you go.
I thought it'd be more fun to make my own cassettes. I thought it'd be easier than making 8 tracks.
Yeah, you can't make it.
Yeah, so I thought about it.
Pretty sure you can get an 8-track aux adapter though.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
I don't know if the quality will be so cool.
This battery may not power all that. Be careful with this voltage.
Let's see. So yeah, like I was saying, I don't know much. So any help is appreciated. Like we definitely know the power source. I don't know what the best power source would be. I know we're looking for 48 volts at least. I mean, if we want to supercharge it, we can supercharge it, but
Yeah.
we'll see what the future holds for that.
Yeah, you could see that in the models. So depending on the model of your controller, it'll be from anywhere from 12, 24, 36,
Yeah,
48.
actually, if
So
we
it'll-
go back real quick,
Yeah.
we'll probably see it in that document.
Yeah, it's-
That's the ammonium phosphate.
yeah. See, it tells you from 12 to 72 if
Yeah.
it's that exact model. So it could be compatible with several voltage ranges. And then you have to check if the voltage ranges are okay also for the motor that's installed on it.
Yeah.
The motor. Motor cares about current.
Yes.
Yeah,
Needs a new
probably
motor.
Yeah, that's.
Maybe have it rewound. Go take it over to EEMC and let them remake it. Good as new for probably less than you could buy a new one.
What would the budget be for that? What?
Less than a new one.
Okay. I like the word less, got my attention. Let's see, yeah, open to collaborations, recommendations, or mentorship, anything. I'm open to learning anything, all things and everything, very open.
So if anybody would
And
like
contact
to,
info.
if anyone would like to help, I'm happy to help. I originally encouraged Michael to take all the vital components out and put them on a bench and hook them up electrically, and I will provide a 48-volt lithium battery pack for testing purpose. out of a leaf.
Mhm.
There you go.
And I think, let's see, if there's, yeah, so the main goal, get that car running. Obviously, that's goal number one. Get a modern electrical system, lithium batteries, refinish the exterior and clean up the interior. And of course, I want to keep it looking like the old classic car that it is. I don't need it to be like, it doesn't necessarily have to look like it. But like I said, experience, technical knowledge, all that would be helpful. Budget, I have no idea what this will cost. I have no idea what we're dealing with in terms of like how much all the parts would cost. The motor alone is probably a big part. Same thing with the batteries, probably cost significant, probably more than what I paid for the car. Most likely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's a good thing I handled. I'm really grateful.
You bought it for the VIN number.
Exactly.
I would, you think about what you wanna do with it. Do you wanna drive it to school or work? Do you wanna drive it to the grocery store and around the neighborhood?
Yeah, those are
Do
the
you wanna
important
drive it to Galveston? These are different,
Because,
different.
so I guess you might not know, but what the difference in ranges comes a lot from whether you're gonna keep it a DC motor system or an AC motor system. And so AC motor gets you the benefit of regenerative braking, and they're also a little more efficient because there's not like a little spark gap between there every time. So, but that's gonna be much more expensive. But if you want this as a project that's just moved, it's, I guess, a little more fancy than a golf cart, then you can keep it how it is. And so that's kind of the decision you gotta make.
Yeah, I think I do like the idea of using it just around my neighborhood. It's a pretty big neighborhood, a lot of open area.
And what it does is it drives the solution to how big a battery do you need.
Right, yeah.
Have you looked at whether there's somewhere in the United States you could buy like one in good shape, like one that was already fixed up? Because maybe that should probably put it top on your budget.
Okay.
You could go buy an awesome one, and
Yeah.
it's $4,000. You probably wouldn't want to spend more than $4,000.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, don't spend more than that. Yeah, right.
Okay, yeah,
That's your
the
sanity
goal
check
right there.
Yeah.
And I know there's some people who are also partying out there. There's a Facebook group specifically for this car. And,
Really?
yeah, and so some people partied out. It's interesting, but again, I don't know what the best route.
I bet you people are 3D printing too. Yeah, they've probably
Yeah.
done like CAD models already for this car.
Funny you say that. Somebody has 3D printed a little toy model,
Yeah.
which I've tried to print.
You need that.
And someone's even made like a Blender model for like video purposes,
Oh, okay.
which I thought was really interesting. I'm gonna use that at some point. But this was like my roadmap initially, just, assess, see what I have, do inventory, see what works, what doesn't. Like the motor, pretty sure needs a lot. Plan the upgrade for the electrical system and then do the restoration pieces. And my goal, and I don't know if this is realistic, but my goal is to get it driving by December of this year and have it looking aesthetically pleasing all the way by March of next year.
Why do you have an air conditioned workspace?
Yes.
Then you have a shot.
Well, that's the best news I've heard today.
Because if you don't have an air conditioned workspace, you're gonna lose the next one.
Contact info.
Say somebody who doesn't have an air conditioned workspace.
But
Yeah, thank you for bringing that in. That's.
of course.
Yeah.
Right, Michael.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
this is exciting to see you jumping on a project like this. So yeah, thanks for bringing in showing all these pictures and everything. This is wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, okay. So if we've got about 10 minutes left each for Bill and for David Lowy, that'll be great because we want to hear from those guys. So Colin, who's up next?
David, you go.
Okay. I don't talk that fast, so 5 minutes might not seem much. Could I have that, man? Yeah, I spent the last weekend in New York, and I don't get out of town very often. So it was great. It was upstate New York, Schenectady, Union College, the home of Charles Steinmetz, who had a 1914 electric vehicle that I got to sit in, that you drove with a tiller rather than a steering wheel. He didn't drive it because he was considered a dwarf and deformed But he had a driver and he and his family would take rides in this car that would lurch along rather than drive smoothly, I understand. But there are photos online of me sitting in the driver's seat.
Well, we saw the photo that.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful part of New York. You think of New York City most of the time, but upstate New York, which I had never visited, it's really nice. So we were treated to a tour of a company called Linkwell, which is trying to make charging more available to everyone, including me, who has a 2020 Volt that just accepts level 2. It doesn't even have the plug for DC fast charge. So they're building out very reliable devices for charging, and we got to tour their factory. And then had a really nice reception in the country home of one of the people who has been on our radio show, Kate Crock. And she's just, she calls herself a mom who loves electric cars, but she does much more than that. She's so involved in the national organization. And her home had like 60 solar panels powering, huge solar panels powering a lot of the house. And we took a tour on an e-bus of Schenectady, seeing historic sites around the town, a neighborhood that GE constructed so that people with similar interests could live near each other. The bus was just phenomenal. We looked around Union College and people got to take pictures in the car. And a lot of the people who invented key elements of television and radio and radar were living in that community. And we have a huge circular GE sign up there, which is more historic than anything active at the moment. And then on the Saturday, people were given awards for the activity they do in their local groups like ours. The group voted best group for the South was our Austin group, and they deserve it. They've been doing a lot of work, but I think we could probably come up to that mark if we wanted to, you know, have a little UT, A&M competition going there. But, and then on Sunday, they did a ride and drive where a lot of people got the first chance to ride an electric car, and we saw a large variety of vehicles there. So it was a good weekend. I'm a vegan. I visited with a friend in New York City and went to the most fabulous vegan restaurant that was really crammed with people. I mean, it wasn't a little uninspired place. It was delicious food and people were interested. So, you know about our radio show, which has been going on for 7 weeks. We're trying to fill in the gaps or at least introduce the public to the subjects at all. So, because most people, as we find, who haven't experienced them don't know anything about them. The dealerships don't know much about them either. They mislead you. I just had my batteries replaced because of the recall for the Volt batteries, and I was probably last in line to do it because our car was working fine. But you don't get much information from dealers. They're just trying to sell you a car. But listen to our radio show every Wednesday morning, 10 to 10:30, 90.1 KPFT. Please call us because we want to know what you know, what you've experienced, and we want to help answer these questions or learn more ourselves. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, David. Yeah, that's great to hear about all the activities that National had going on at the once a year meeting. And so that was really good. And it sounds like you had a great time while there interacting with everybody. Okay. So is that sign-in sheet still going around? You can.
Has everybody got to it?
Pretty much everyone got it, Dave.
They're in somewhere around here. Oh, it's here.
Okay, so Bill, glad to see you're back after celebrating your 80th birthday. Yay. Yeah.
Down, you will explain or understand. So I did go to Iceland with my sister. I was there 3 weeks ago. And the most favorite part for me was for the power plant. It's all geothermal and hydro. But in the distance from the geothermal plant, there was a facility that does what's called direct air capture. CO2. It was called Climb. I'm sorry? Those things suck. They do. It was called Climb Works. And actually, we have a photograph of a place that's being built in Louisiana. I think it's in the west corner of Louisiana. This is, if you scroll down, Alan, I think there's, well, I guess we lost it here. Oh, it's Cypress. That's a CAD model of the one that's gonna be built in Cypress, and I'm not entirely sure of what the tons per year is. But nevertheless, I thought it was very cool that they're building one, assuming funding doesn't dry up. And what.
Yeah.
So that was one item of interest. The other item is there is some Chinese vehicles. Let me see. Let me see what I can find. It's labeled this right here.
I would not have guessed that.
These vehicles were, there was a business here at the labs and they, for whatever reason, lost interest. They're $6,000 vehicles, 0 miles, low-speed electric vehicle, 1 seat, air conditioning and radio. And we're still working on it. And I can give you a tour of it. This one right here. I can give you a tour of, it's in the other end of the building. They're very awkward to drive. We drove one down this hallway right here. And we try to like heck to push it beyond 25 miles per hour, but we don't have any downhills in the area. But anyway, a tour after the meeting this evening. That's a picture of the motor. I believe they're 3-phase AC motors. Yeah. 72 volts. There's a lithium battery pack. The owner was of the opinion that since they sat for so long that the batteries were kaput. Well, yes, the 12 volt battery is kaput, but the main traction battery, there's a picture of the inside. You can go back to that if you will. There you go. The battery lives in that box right there. Anyway.
The dual traction battery?
The 12 volt battery?
The main.
Really?
Battery.
That's small.
That's small, yeah. I would point out, you didn't mention this. We typically say we get 100 miles per gallon equivalent with EV, it's more or less, right? This one's 300 miles per gallon. Or no, yours is 300 miles per gallon equivalent. Anyway, all right, that's all I have.
That takes 2 weeks. You've got this here today?
Yeah, we can walk down and take a look at it. There are 4 of them. And I might say that if the labs does not want them, they're probably available and you'll make a donation to the labs.
And top speed, and they're neighborhood vehicles because their top speed is
25.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So.
With air conditioning. as I
Fully functional and the reason required was.
The owner lost interest. I don't know what happened, but he was under the opinion that the main traction battery was kaput. But I confirmed whether or not it was. Yeah.
All right, and just as an aside, Bill and I have been talking about for a long time, some form of a EV 101 in how do you work on EVs? And
That would
some sort of a classroom in TxRx Lab, and they should have something. You think Alex, they want they can keep 1 or 2 of these and make it. There's a company I'm going to show that makes a curriculum and a vehicle that you can disassemble and assemble.
Display it on the.
Yeah.
The labs is a natural to have a class, maybe the high schools who want to train EV mechanics would be interested in doing something with the labs. But since they're in workforce training.
Yeah, these guys, they made a vehicle that the kids can build. I think it's mostly high school at this point. Yeah, and they can, and it is street legal. They can drive it. You can see the components. They have a lead acid version and lithium version, and one of them has regenerative, as far as I know. But I think you're in the $20,000 ballpark, $25,000, because they're providing a curriculum. That's probably the most valuable part, and you can get training on teaching the class. So we're just tossing about this idea, trying to, because as far as I know, there is no, HCC doesn't have anything. Lone Star doesn't have anything. Nobody has anything that I know of. The last time I looked.
They just have automotive technology.
Yes, and suppressing EVs for so long, they don't realize that this might actually be a thing.
We visited HCC and they have an impressive couple of locations, but they had a hybrid, or was it the Prius? That was as far as they went, and and they did have some lab boards and things like that, but that was kind of it.
Yeah, you would think the Reese Technical School right there in Sugar Land would be interested. They have an automotive shop. But this would be a neat add-on for them.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that I'm not sure it's a lot less complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something new to learn for sure. But anyway, we're kicking around this idea, and we appreciate any ideas people have. Yeah, thanks for coming. And stick around for a tour here.
Yeah, it sounds like fun.
All right, well, we'll go in that direction.
All right, that's great stuff. And so we can start wrapping up. I know folks want to do that tour. Again, I'd like to thank Robert Sanchez for all that he's done as vice president. And I have a feeling he's going to keep on sending out articles and stuff, because we all appreciate the things that he's been doing. And so it's always great to have working together as a team, all the officers, to get these meetings and the speakers lined up and things like that. So we've already been talking about having a speaker, the president of the Wisconsin chapter next month, and maybe more. But I would also like to ask if anyone has projects they'd like to report on or introduce or anything like that, because we always love hearing about members' projects. I don't know if John.
You may have a topic.
I was thinking that listening to the presentation over here, that, kind of the way I described it was EVs are kind of bougie, right? I mean, we're all, look, we're all employed, and so on and so forth. What I'm seeing is that the age of the fleet of EVs is now getting to like the initial peak of sales of EVs is about 7 or 8 years old, which guess what? That's when people are trade in their cars. And what you're seeing now is you're seeing less affluent people buying EVs, because what's happened in the last 6 months to the price of EVs plummeted. Used car prices have plummeted. They're trying to get rid of these EVs. And what I'm seeing is a lot of less economically affluent people driving EVs. And, we might want to think about how that's going to change the market. But I mean, it's, I've got some things that I've observed, but it's becoming much more, what's the right word? Democratic, or what did I say?
Mainstream.
Mainstream, yeah, because I mean, people who can't afford it are buying, and listen to the thing, they're buying cheap EVs, and they can't afford it because they're buying these EVs that require massive, very expensive battery overhauls and such. They only get like 30 miles on the charge, and why are they selling for $2,000, $1,000? Because they're pieces of crap, right? and so you're seeing this shift. You're seeing a lot of lower income people buying the crashing prices of EVs are changing the face, if you will, of people who are buying EVs. So I don't know exactly what all of that's going to come into, but I've seen, in my business, I've seen a lot of change in the people driving EVs.
Have you ever considered, as somebody mentioned before, lighting is a mobile source?
So I laugh at that because, I can fully outfit for like $10,000 a mobile charging station versus $110,000 for Lightning, which is nice. I mean, it's a kind of a nice story. It's cute. Yeah, it's good if you do it once or twice, but you're not going to spend $110,000 to go, charge a fleet. It's very expensive. But yes, it does work, and I do know people who are doing that kind of on the offhand, but you wouldn't spend that much to do that. But yeah, that's
And we have a member who drove, picked up a used Nero from Dallas, didn't make it back because he didn't understand the charging and the range, and ended up having to get a 12-volt battery charger. And he still struggles with not being able to charge at home.
Who's that?
We don't need to go there.
Well, people are also renting. I had one guy call and he's like, I can't go any further in my EV. I'm like, have you charged it? And he goes, what do you mean charge it? So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, there's some great deals
Okay.
on
education vouchers fix that.
but yeah, I mean, people are buying $2,000, $8,000 Teslas, $2,000 Bolts, and it's changing the face of what you're seeing out there. So
Yeah, here's something I found on a new toy available. I'm a boomer, but this is on our Facebook page, by the way. We do have interesting things occasionally and interesting conversations. So we can continue this on our Facebook page. Just more media people. We've got a radio, we got and we would have Instagram.
We have YouTube. All our radio shows are on YouTube
That's right.
for all time, whether it's on the radio station, it's 60 days. So it's a way to achieve immortality. Go on the radio, stick it on YouTube.
When I heard today, I think they announced that Tesla will not be making the Cybertruck extended.
I saw that, yeah.
Now they'll start refunding everybody that ordered that. That's kind of that form.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see it up there on the screen because I forgot to mention so far. Tomorrow there's a lunch. Everyone's invited who'd like to go down to the NASA area. So down in League City, there's the Red River Barbecue Grill. And it started just as folks working at JSC meeting, but we of course welcome anybody. It just happens to be on that side of town, so you have to get yourself there. But that monthly lunch will be tomorrow. So
On Facebook.
And I'm getting new tires so that I can go to it. My tires are worn out. 50,000 plus money.
all right. So anything else folks would like to bring up? All right. So we will have our next meeting the second Thursday of June. And as I said, we're already getting some things lined up for that. So we appreciate all the interaction with everybody. You can see there on the Facebook group, there's good interaction there. And so Colin, if you don't have anything else, then we will wrap things up.
thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
I'm organized.